you, Ambassador Raghavan, Mr. Datta, Executive Director, Asian Confluence, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Director General, Research Information System for Developing Countries, Ambassador Professor Columbage, Foreign Secretary, High Commissioner Gopal Bagle, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Pathfinder is pleased for this opportunity to have an exchange of views with the ASEAN Indian Center of RIS on how to further deepen Indo-Lanka relations at a critical time in international relations impacting upon our region. I use the word further deepen with intent, as our historical, cultural, and religious relations go back to more than 2.5 millennia. Irrespective of our political relations, which may ebb and flow from time to time, our deep-seated relations will undoubtedly continue to stand firm and face the test of time. Politically speaking, New World Order means any period of history evidencing a dramatic change in world political thought and balance of power. There is no better time for us to discuss our bilateral relations at a time like what we are experiencing today. In doing so, we have to be frank and honest and look at not only our abiding individual national interests, but also how they impact on other countries. The 21st century, as we have heard, began with the high expectations, and belief was that it would be the Asian century. While it may still be true, what we have so far experienced during the past 2 decades were invasions, pandemics, financial crises, and unilateral sanctions, which have all affected our countries in Asia adversely, retarding our economic growth. Focusing on how to deepen our bilateral relations, I see 3 broad areas. One is political, second security, third economic.
Okay, I found this on the web for 3 broad areas. Check it out.
And I see 3 broad areas, and these are political, security, and what you call economic. Speaking of the political area, I must confess that Sri Lankans carry historical baggage, both old and new, with regard to their relations with its northern neighbor. We are talking of India, which shape the thinking of our society. As such, our relations begin with a handicap, unfortunately, which need to be carefully and consciously managed. There was a reference to trust deficiency. It certainly has been an issue which has affected our relations. Undertakings given at a high political level, either without the intention of fulfilling them or not realizing the enormity of such undertakings, they have contributed to estrangement of bilateral relations during the post-2009 period. Fortunately, relations at high political level are much better now. Prime Minister Modi's approach towards India's neighbors and several visits undertaken since 2015 have created a positive atmosphere. His virtual reaction with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister late last month was one example of his desire for close interaction. One major impediment that tests the relationship is the 13th Amendment, if I may say so, which I would like to explain briefly. We may require a separate interaction to fully understand the issues and nuances related to that amendment and implications thereof. There is a school of thought that strongly holds the view that consultation of that the constitution of a country is the sovereign right of the people, and continued insistence on implementation of something that had no proper appeal constitute an imposition. However, we are not unaware of the predicament of New Delhi having to deal with Tamil Nadu based on the demands of Tamil political parties in Sri Lanka that led to the violent separatist conflict in the country. More than 3 decades after, the matter is hotly debated even to this date. One political analyst observed last week, and I quote, for India to keep insisting on the full implementation of the 13th Amendment is bound to have an impact on India-Sri Lanka relations. Because what India's insistence amount to is a denial of the universal right of the people of the sovereign state of Sri Lanka to exercise its right of self-determination and compel it to live under an arrangement that suits India's internal interests, close quote. Of course, one could contest this point and come up with alternative interpretations. I must confess that this is only one point of view, and there are many other views that have been expressed on the subject. Then the author, whom I referred to just now, quotes former Indian Foreign Secretary and National Security Advisor, Ambassador Shankar Menon. And I quote, he said, how relevant those arguments of past are today is debatable. It shows a paucity of leadership and thought that the same sterile arguments of the past 30 years on devolution and constitutional arrangements continue to dominate the political process, close quote. So, if progress in political terms is the ultimate aim, then the Tamil political parties, as well as the southern political parties, should collectively revisit the issue and look for alternative solutions. One such opportunity is the arrangement currently underway to draw up a new constitution. To achieve success in this endeavor, Government of Sri Lanka should encourage participation of Tamil and Muslim political parties in the constitution making process and come up with tangible solutions to address the grievances of all minorities, not only Tamils. Find solutions that may not infringe the rights of the majority, take Government of India into confidence, discuss the issue frankly, and reach consensus how to proceed. The question is how to manage the situation. In the past, there was a group of trusted senior level officials representing the two countries to steer the relationship. Considering the importance of the relationship, the two governments should consider re-establishing such a mechanism. The second issue is the security environment in the Indian Ocean region, which has experienced sea change with the roles of previous allies and adversaries changing. India's strategic relationship with the United States since the 123 nuclear agreement in 2005 was a stellar development. Similarly, becoming a member of the Quad has added a new dimension to the relationship. Meanwhile, China's growing interest in the Indian Ocean region has become a source of concern both to the United States and India. In the context of new great power rivalry between the US and China, and the strained relations with India over the border issue. We have to take a position. So far, I think the President Rajapaksa has clearly stated that he will not take sides in emerging power struggle, as the country's priority is economic and social development, clearly signaling that he does not wish to become an appendage to one or the other great power. On the other hand, Sri Lanka has repeatedly stated its position vis-à-vis India, that Colombo will not take any step that would threaten the internal security of India. We hope this assurance given at high political level would satisfy the concerns of India might entertain with regard to Sri Lanka providing facilities to those who may have hostile intentions towards India. I must also mention the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. We tend to ignore certain important factors. The financial assistance given by India at various times when Sri Lanka was in trouble, the 50,000 plus housing facilities provided, development of railway, and I earlier mentioned the ambulance service, which is very much appreciated by the Sri Lankans now, but was a subject of criticism at the point of beginning, are all indications of the desire of India to be close to Sri Lanka and to be a friend of Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, these good deeds have not been appreciated well enough or seen positively at the time of introducing such proposals or projects by the Sri Lankan society, which is something that needs to be looked at by both countries to see what is the reason for this kind of thinking on the part of the Sri Lankan society. Finally, I would like to mention that the interaction what we are going to have would be a stimulating one by the distinguished panelists on the subject of deepening relations between Sri Lanka and India. And I hope that both our institutions would find this encounter stimulating and, more importantly, worth repeating in the future. Thank you.